Missouri, where my basketball team, Columbia College, is hosting our #1 rival, Central Methodist College. Brad McCarty, senior point guard, All-American, just scored a bucket on me to tie the ball game 88-88. At this point, a little bit of chaos ensues because in the excitement of the game, the people at the scorer's table forgot to stop the clock when he made the bucket. So as the referees are standing over and gathering with the scorer's table to decide how much time to put back on the clock, John Bishop, one of the players for Central Methodist, turns to one of my teammates, Corey Toma, and says, "Hope you don't have a date because we're going into overtime. You're going to be late." As referees are walking back to place the ball into play, I turned to coach to kind of ask, see what he wanted to do. We had two options. We can either continue to play or we can pass the ball in bounds, hold the ball, and go for overtime, or we can go for the win. So I didn't know where he wanted to go, so I just turned to coach and went like this. Coach said, "If you get it, take it." Fantastic. So we line up to throw the ball in bounds to go for the last play. There's 4 seconds on the clock. Pause. 3 days prior, Saturday, January 8th, same gymnasium. We're playing against Missouri Valley College. This is what we in the sports world will call a trap game. As I said, Central Methodist is our #1 rival. So we're looking forward to them, and we're not really focusing on the team that we're playing right now, which is why they call it a trap game. We're down 3 with under 10 seconds to go. Sitting in the huddle, coach says, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do. Damon, get the ball, go up court. If somebody comes to trap you or something, kick it off to one of your teammates for the 3. But we gotta get a 3, no 2s. We gotta get a 3 because we gotta tie the ball game." So we get the ball in bounds. I'm dribbling up court. Not a lot of pressure. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, they're giving me the shot. I let it go and in and out. Heartbreaking. Fast forward, let's go back to Tuesday, January 11th. So as we're lining up to throw the ball in bounds, I'm surveying the court to see where everybody is. My anticipation is that when I catch the ball, they're gonna try to immediately trap me in order to make the time run out. To my surprise, they didn't do that. So I get the ball in bounds. As I'm dribbling up court, that guard, Brad McCarty, and another guard are sitting behind me trying to take the ball from me. Nobody's in front of me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're gonna give me a clear path to get a good shot. So I dribble down, 3, 2, 1, let it fly, and I make the shot. We win the biggest game of the year because it was our rival, biggest shot I've ever hit in my life. How did I get there? Obviously, it took a lot of hard work, but just as important as that hard work is it took a lot of visualization along the way. And it all started my freshman year in high school, sitting around at a volleyball game, the varsity volleyball team's playing. Myself and a bunch of freshmen are sitting around in the stands, chit-chatting, talking about our futures. I don't know how that topic came up, but we started talking about our futures, what we're gonna do. And people are talking about going to college, and of course, you know, I wanna become a doctor and go study X, Y, and Z. I said, I'm gonna go to college, but I'm gonna go on a basketball scholarship because when I leave here, somebody's gonna want me to play for them. Nothing but laughter breaks out. And I understand the skepticism in that statement. Here I was standing 5'8", 145 pounds, soaking wet with weights in my pocket. Not your typical basketball prospect. But what they didn't understand is I had a goal, a very vivid goal of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. And that's the thing with visualization. It has to start with knowing what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, you can't create the vision in your mind. You can't use visualization to take you to the place you want to go without first knowing exactly what it is you wanted to do. So I had a goal to go play in college basketball, and I even had visions of hitting the shot, a game-winning shot or a game-tying shot. Had that as well. But let's stick to how I ended up getting to Columbia College. What those students didn't know, those other students that were sitting around with me, what they didn't know is that I had a really clear vision. And one thing that I understand that we teach in Habit Finder is that when you talk about visualization and seeing what it is you want, you have to sit and really look and understand if you have, or understand what your secret desires and your real intentions are. Now, what is that, Damon, you ask? When we talk about your secret desires and real intentions is, do you want to live a life of significance or do you want to live a life of ease? And that will determine if you use visualization the right way. If you're looking for a life of significance, then you're looking to create something. You're looking to build something, to engage in life, to get involved or to get connected with the principles that are going to lead you to connecting and serving other people. But if you're looking for a life of ease, one where you get to avoid struggle, avoid pain, avoid sorrow, and prematurely live in the moment or after the moment where the goal that you're seeking has already happened, you're gonna live in what we call fantasy. And fantasy is not the same thing as visualization. When we talk about real, true visualization, that is envisioning yourself doing the work, accomplishing the goal. When we sit and we dream about what happens after the goal, that's what when we get into fantasy. And fantasy, it can really demotivate you if you use this visualization destructively. Because what fantasy does is it helps you, or it makes you live in that place as if the goal has already been accomplished. And so while you're sitting here, spending your time in the future, imagining yourself having accomplished the goal already, what you're doing is you're giving yourself all of those endorphins and good feelings as if the goal has already been achieved. And then when life comes back to you, when reality sets in, now you're disgruntled, the work seems mundane, your life seems just slow and not fun, and you really can put yourself in a place where you're feeling miserable. So you want to be careful when you're using visualization that you're not in a position where you're using it for ease and you're using it to escape reality, escape real life. The other thing that we can sometimes get caught up into is catastrophe, where we're using our visualization and we're imagining the worst case scenario and we're seeing things failing, and we get mired and stuck in the muck and mire of worry, stress. So we want to make sure that we know what we want, we know what our secret desires and our real intentions are. Are we looking for a life of significance, or are we looking for a life of ease? And that's something that you really have to focus on, hone in on, and understand where you are in terms of your goal. If you find yourself sitting around imagining what life will be like when, then that's the incorrect way to use visualization. You want to see yourself accomplishing the goal, doing the work, building and creating something. And with that, your visualization can help prime your brain to find solutions that are out there. But if you can get that feeling of having the goal already because of fantasy, then you're not going to want to do the work, because with the work comes a little bit of pain. So we have to, again, understand what it is we're looking for. There was a study done at UCLA by Shelley Taylor and Leon Pham back in 1999. They took two groups of students that were weeks away from taking an exam. The first group, they said, this is what we're going to do. We want you to imagine yourself, visualize yourself very clearly, walking up to that bulletin board outside of the professor's office and see your name with an A next to it. And we want you to do that every day. Let that be your focus. For the second group, they said, this is what we want you to do. We want you to picture in your mind going to your room, shutting off all communication with other people, closing the door, and picturing yourself studying very hard and getting yourself prepared for the test. We want that to be your focus leading up to the test. Now, what do you guys think was the result of that? Which group do you think performed better on the test? Group A, that imagined themselves walking up to the board and seeing the A, or Group B, that went, or that in their mind saw themselves studying for the work? All right, it actually was Group B. It was the group that visualized themselves doing the work. Because the thing we have to understand is that where our dreams are going to be created, where our goals are going to be reached, is in reality. And so by Group B visualizing themselves doing the work, that prompted them to actually do the work and to study and to not only see the vision, but do the vision, act out the vision. Whereas Group A, you can easily just look at something, but that's not going to motivate you to go to do the work, because as I said before, you're already getting the feeling of having the A. Because here's the thing, our brains don't know what's real and what's not. So when we imagine and visualize something, our brain thinks that it's reality. And so when we get into fantasy, when we get into imagining what life will be like once we've achieved it, we get that feeling like we've already done it. So why would we go and do the work to create something when we can just, in an instant, go into our minds and get that feeling? That's why we have to imagine and see ourselves, visualize ourselves doing the work. And by doing that work and by visualizing us doing the work, it affects us on a physical cellular level. So it affects our neurology as well as our physiology. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take us through a visualization practice right now on YouTube. So I want you to go through that, and then after we get done, we're going to sit and we're going to talk about what your experience was with it. All right, so as we went through that exercise, how many of you could actually, when you were going through that, if you, as Lauren said, if you were able to allow yourself to get into that space, get into that forest, how many of you could feel the water as you dipped your hand into the water, or smelling the pine cone? Like that was the one that really got me to choose this one to use, because as I was going through it and she said, can you smell the pine cone? I was like, man, this is amazing. And this is the thing we got to understand about visualization. As I said, it affects our neurology and our physiology. So not only do we see these images and we see ourselves doing the work, but it actually, as I said, hits us on a cellular level to where we get the feelings, we get the thought, the brain waves to know what it's like to be in that moment. I told you guys about basketball before. So I had 2 more opportunities to be in that same position that I talked about earlier, to have an opportunity to score, to either win a game or tie a game to send us into overtime. And one of the times, it was a position where it was my junior year, and I gotten hurt earlier in the season, so my time after I came back from injury was very low. So we're playing the most important game of the season. It was one of our conference opponents, and we needed to win this game to try to get the #1 seed in the conference tournament. Coach barely played me that game. I probably played 5 to 7 minutes for the entire game. Talking about a 40-minute game, I played 5 to 7 minutes. We got down to the end of the game. We're down 2 with about 7 seconds or so left on the clock. I hadn't been playing. I'd been sitting on the bench. Like, I hadn't been in probably 13 minutes. So here I am, not in the flow of the game, not sweating, sitting on the bench. Coach calls a timeout after the other team scored to go up 2. It says, okay, Damon, go check in the game. Puts me in the game and says, get the ball to Damon. Damon, you go. And he trusted me in that position because I'd shown that I've had the ability to perform well in those moments. Here's the thing that I didn't share is in my mind, I told you I went there hundreds of times, and we all do as athletes. If any of you are athletes, we all do that in our mind. We imagine ourselves, taking that last shot, scoring the last touchdown, hitting the home run, whatever sport you in, you see yourself in that dramatic moment. But for me, I missed the shot every single time I took the shot. Now you're probably thinking that doesn't make sense. And I thought the same thing too. It's like, there's no way you can use visualization and see yourself failing and still be successful. But here's the key, is your body, as I said, gets used to being in that moment. When you visualize strong enough, your body can feel the feelings and smell the senses and see clear visions of what it is that you're trying to do. Even though I missed the shot all of those hundreds of times in my mind, my body and my brain was used to being in that situation. So I never feared that last second shot. I never feared that moment because I had been in that position hundreds of times in my mind. And I didn't fall into catastrophe because of the missed shot. What I understood was, or what my goal was, and I talked about, what are your secret desires and real intentions? My desire was to come through for my teammate at every moment. My desire was to be a significant part of the team and our team's success at every moment. So though I missed the shot in my mind, I kept revisiting the dream. I kept revisiting the vision in my mind. I kept rehearsing in my mind. And so I was used to being in that position. I never envisioned myself being yelled at by the coach or my teammates being mad at me or the fans in the stands throwing. But I imagined myself doing the work of getting myself open and getting a good shot. Not only did I see it in my mind, but because I wanted it, because my secret desires and my real intentions were to be of significance and not a life of ease, I went and did the work. I went and practiced, and I practiced what I saw in my mind. And even though in my mind I didn't make the shot, the reason I was so successful in those moments and the reason why my coach could have the faith in me and my teammates could have the faith in me in those moments, and why I was able to rise to the occasion, is because I was in that position so many times in my mind. So I hope you all can really understand and see and know the difference of visualization, true visualization, using your visualization constructively, as opposed to fantasy, using your visualization destructively. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for discussion and questions about anything surrounding visualization that we just talked about. Nancy asked a question in the chat, say, how often do I use visualization? More now. So as I was talking with Lauren, is when he's like, hey, I want you to present to the group, what do you want to talk about? And I said visualization, because I'm getting back to what I was doing prior. So I use it in the mornings. So I do a couple of different things. So I do what we call power sessions. We have something that we teach in Habit Finder, power sessions, where you sit and you go through what your day is and you set up specific blocks to do certain work. And then you sit and you use, we call it mental rehearsal, where you actually rehearse what it is you're going to work on and you see yourself doing that. So I use that for that specific practice. And then I have a meditation type practice that I do that I got from Tony Robbins, where he said he'll do like 9 minutes or 9-10 minutes. So the first 3 minutes he'll take one thing that he's grateful for a minute and just show gratitude for that thing for a minute. So the first 3 are 3 things of gratitude. The next 3 minutes, he'll say a prayer, or you can say a prayer for somebody. You pick somebody for each of the next 3 minutes. And then the last 3 minutes, you visualize yourself accomplishing whatever goals that you have. So you can do, one could be a short-term goal, so like a 30-day goal. Then you have one that maybe is like a 6-month or a year goal. And then the third one can be more of a long-term goal. If you want to go out that far, it could be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever increments you do. So those are the practices that I used. And like I said, I just got back into this because I was thinking about that visualization, and it really messed me up in a good way, when I thought about how I was using my visualization, I was like, dude, I missed, like, how could, like, what is wrong, you know? And I've shared on many of platforms about, you know, I've struggled with self-esteem, you know, for a good portion of my life. And so I understood that I was missing the shot, but I didn't understand why I was still able to be successful and why I was never nervous. And, you know, because I never dwelled on the fact that I missed the shots. And it was, you know, until recently where I really realized it's like, hey, because I wasn't focused on the outcome, I was focused on the work. Like, how could I maneuver? What could I do? If a guy comes at me this way, what can I do to get the shot? I was more focused on the process of it than on the outcome. And again, and even with the missing of the shot, I kept revisiting. I didn't run away from it. And that's where a lot of people make mistakes with their goals and dreams, is when things don't go our way, or when something, you know, looks odd, or we may get that vision of us failing, instead of going back and saying, okay, it didn't work this time, what can I do? And really channeling and focusing your mind on what you can do the next time. A lot of people just go away. But with that, particularly basketball, I never shied away from it. I kept going back in my mind over and over and over again. And it didn't matter that I missed the shot. I'm gonna keep going till I get it. And we practiced in real life. I practiced the moves in real life. I practiced the shots in real life. And practice, coach set up those scenarios in real life. So through the visualization and through that, I was able to get into those positions because like I said, my body and my mind was already accustomed to being in that position, having the ball in my hand and making a decision or making a play that was going to determine the outcome. So we've got to make sure that we're focusing on what we want to do and not be afraid to keep going back in our minds until we get it right, or at least until we get to the point where we're comfortable in that moment. And you can use that for phone calls. You know, for all you business folks, you can use that for phone calls, or you want to meet people, or even going to networking groups, which, I mean, I know we can't do now, but, you know, we're going to get back to that. So even that, you can imagine and picture yourself and rehearse in your mind how you're going to approach people, what you're going to say to them, what you want to do. And, you know, you use that the right way. And you know, and I talk about the fantasy, and I'm not saying that you don't have those things, period, but you don't want to live there. So that goal, like that end result, like after you got it, that should fuel you to want to do the work to build it. But if you find yourself getting caught up in living in that space of already being there and prematurely, you know, in your mind celebrating that place, then, you know, you're putting yourself in a real tough situation. I'm a habit finder coach through Augmandino Institute. We have an assessment called Habit Finder, and what it does is it measures your habits of thinking. And so what I like to do is offer everybody the opportunity to take the Habit Finder and do this discovery call. It's a great tool. Like I said, it really showed you what your habits of thinking are. It's a little bit different than your typical assessment, because most of them, you know, take a look at your personality, but this talks about the thinking that pushes those different personalities. So if you guys want to, you know, take an opportunity to do that, just go to my website right here above, DemonKRoss.com. You'll see the button says take the test. You can take it there and then go to schedule to my calendar. We'll set up a time and just walk through and just kind of show you some highlights, some of your habits of thinking that are supporting you in your efforts, and some of those that may be sabotaging you in your efforts.